The story we will tell today is The Judge of the Crows. Once upon a time, there was an old merchant. He lived near Naples with his wife and son Giovanni. Giovanni was very clever and skillful. He loved birds very much. He would fill his tiny pockets with breadcrumbs, wheat, corn, and other grains, and spend all day in the forest feeding the birds. After a while, the birds realized that Giovanni meant them no harm, and they grew to love him. They started to perch on his hands and shoulders, eat from his hands, and sing him the most beautiful songs. As time passed, Giovanni's father had to go on a long journey, and he took his son with him. On the fourth day of their journey, while the father and son were looking out to sea from the deck, two large seagulls landed beside them. The seagulls were squawking loudly, and Giovanni was listening to them with great interest. His father asked, "What are these seagulls saying?" The child shrugged, not wanting to speak, but unable to resist his father's insistence. He finally revealed what he had heard. "These chatty birds are talking nonsense, father. They say that very soon luck will smile upon me. They even say that you will wash my hands and my mother will dry them." The father was very angry and pushed his son away angrily. Because the child did not expect such a reaction, he fell from the deck of the ship into the sea, which was already tossing the ship from side to side with its waves. They couldn't find the child because the sea was very rough. After a while, the passengers of another passing ship saw the child trying to stay above water amidst the large waves. They immediately lowered a boat and rescued the child. The ship was heading to a distant country. The captain of the ship offered the child's services to the king of that country. During those days, the king was very sad because for some time, 3 large black crows wouldn't leave him alone. No matter what the guards did, they couldn't chase away the crows, and the crows' voices were distressing the king. Even at night, the crows wouldn't leave the king alone, never moving away from his window. Giovanni began to converse with the crows. He asked them why they were troubling the king. It turned out that the crows wanted the king to arbitrate between them. All 3 crows wanted to be king, but they couldn't decide who should be the king among them. If the king chose a crow, it would become the king of the crow world. Giovanni explained this to the king. When the king understood what the crows wanted, he was overjoyed. He regained his zest for life and vitality. He chose the eldest crow as the crow king. Thus the crows flew off to their distant land. As a reward, the king gave Giovanni both his daughter's hand in marriage and the kingdom. Since the king had no other children besides his daughter and was already old himself, he entrusted the entire rule of the kingdom to Giovanni. Giovanni became a very kind-hearted king. He helped everyone, fed the poor, and quenched their thirst. One day, 2 elderly people from distant lands came to his palace. Giovanni immediately recognized them as his own parents, but it never occurred to the elderly that this powerful king could be their son. Giovanni invited them to dinner. Before the meal, as he was washing his hands, the elderly man ran to him and washed his hands. The elderly woman also held a towel for Giovanni to dry his hands. Giovanni couldn't contain his overwhelming joy anymore. He introduced himself and hugged his parents with great excitement. When they heard that the king was their own child, they cried tears of happiness. Since that day, Giovanni's parents have lived with him in the palace. In their spare time, they listen to the birds and eagerly await the stories of unknown worlds that the birds share. This is the lesson we learn from this story. We should never underestimate anyone because everyone has potential, and they might become a king in the future. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we'll see you in the next video. Stay healthy and happy.